Ooh, this is exotic. Muscle Cat Media. Nice. Cultural.
Well, as you no doubt saw in the episode title and cover art, something new for us today as we head into the All-Star break. Not the first half of the season, the end of the first half of the season, as Spoon as I talked about, the end of the, 3/5 mark of the Major League Baseball season, but it is the All-Star break, and that means the T-Mobile Home Run Derby is about 16 hours away, and Spoon and I are going to break it down because who doesn't like to wake up at 10 in the morning and watch dudes hit homers? Hello, Spoon. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, my friend. I like to get up at 10 a.m. and watch my team try to hit home runs, but up until 3 days ago, it was Pavin Smith giving us the worst production in baseball history at first base. But no longer. We are free. Tim Towers hitting home runs, so I'm back on the home run train in a big way.
My wife is very excited about us going to Christmas in July markets in the Rocks here in Sydney next weekend. But Christmas in July came for D-backs fans earlier this week when Pavin Smith was designated for assignment.
I mean, to go 3-0 right after that and sweep the Dodgers on the road for the first time in 9 years, there's no chance at all it's coincidence. I mean, if we did this 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't even need to be saying the next 10 days are the most important. We would have already had those 10 days. We would have had 20 of those days.
Here I came on, said we were going to talk about the Home Run Derby, and Pavin Smith was the first name out of your mouth. So, although enough guys said no in this year's Home Run Derby that Pavin Smith may have been on the next short list of guys that they would have asked potentially.
We could have done like the Bill Simmons emergency pod, but just done like a Pavin Smith DFA emergency pod. Get the commissioner back on.
Well, the emergency pod might come if and when he gets called back up to the Diamondbacks. That might be the Pavin Smith emergency pod. That
you won't be able to find me when that happens.
Well, you are in remote South Australia at the moment, so it's difficult enough to find you now, and your team just swept the Dodgers on the road. So I believe you when you say you might not be easy to find if and when Pavin Smith finds his way back to the big leagues. Look, before we touch on the Home Run Derby, I'm very excited about the Home Run Derby. Again, we talked about it's not necessarily the best field that we've seen. There's a lot of guys that said no, and for various reasons, and Spoon and I will touch on that. And we will do a bit of a longer episode tomorrow, just touching on the All-Star game. Eric will be with us. He's busy again today, which shocks no one. But I did just want to touch on Destiny Draft quickly. Obviously, round 4 is done and dusted. And our man Ibo, Spoon, just if you look at the progress that he made across the last 2 weeks, I don't know that we have seen a better example of just steady improvement day on day over the span of 2 weeks than the team that Ibo put together. And you may have cursed him because you said at some point you thought, between him and I, oddly enough, I ended up finishing third. You thought this would be the first 50-point round, and he ended on 49.
Yeah, I mean, I when you look at the graph, right, it's the perfect example of a guy who had 2 starting pitchers that pitched every couple of days spread out. So he just kind of has this like very nice line that trends up throughout. Whereas, in the past, I think when I've had a couple of starting pitchers, and you've probably been the same this round, they were going on the same day. So yours kind of like jumps.
Yeah, well, look at mine. You see two large straight lines.
Spikes. Yeah. And then Taylor Trammell was just like fighting for his life, trying to keep you above water. And look, I apologize. I kind of put the mock on you on Friday. I said it was, down to you and Ibo. I was no chance of finishing top 2. It's a miracle I finished top 2, honestly, with J-Rod out all days, bar 1 or 2. But yeah, Ibo with the best listener around so far, 49 points as well, is, correct me if I'm wrong, the best score we've seen all season? No, I had a 50 last round. Second best score we've had from anyone all season. It's a good effort from the listener, and it makes the season standings really interesting too.
Yeah, and another example of how taking 2 pitchers can, again, like we talked about last week, taking 2 pitchers if you've got the stock to be able to do it. And yeah, I mean, Kevin Gossman was outstanding the last couple weeks. Look, I mean, I had the highest score, who was the first overall pick, in Tarek Skubal. It worked out. It just so happened that I couldn't get longevity from Will Warren. It was probably that second start of his that really was my undoing. It took probably 5 or 6 points away from me. And in the end, if I Caglione instead of taking Taylor Trammell, which is kind of the back and forth that I did late in the draft, that may have been what got me over the hump. But look, bygones are bygones, and in what it was effectively a 3-horse race, because Eric never left the gates. He ended on 6. His graph is hilarious to look at. If you haven't done it, go to baseballexpats.com and take a look at the round 4 graph. And poor Eric is, well, you could say running a race of his own. So in a 3-horse race, essentially, I still managed to finish last. But we will hear from Eric and Ibo tomorrow. And again, no Destiny draft this week. We'll pick that back up next week once the All-Star break has finished. I do want to move on to the Home Run Derby. And before we sort of get into the guys that we like and some of the new formats and what we think of it, your thoughts just on the whole, Spoon, on the Home Run Derby?
Yeah, I mean, I love it as an event. I mean, you compare it to the All-Star weekends or the All-Star breaks of other sports, and I think the NBA three-point contest is a lot of fun, but other elements of that weekend have kind of dropped off. You know, like the All-Star game hasn't been played competitively for a very long time. I think the fact that, you know, baseball isn't a contact sport, so there's kind of nothing stopping guys going out there and at least giving 90%, if not 100. Maybe not so much for the pitching, but definitely, you know, with the glove and with the bat. So I think it tees off what's a really nice weekend. Whereas, yeah, in some of the other sports, it does feel like you almost switch off from the sport for a little bit. Whereas, and you said it last week as well, it's not even really a break. Like, these guys are back playing in 5 days. We get a home run derby. We get to watch the best 20 or 30 players in baseball go at it. We get like 2 true off days, and then we're back.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that. But I mean, I mean, baseball is a sport that I follow more than any other North American sport. I mean, especially in terms of basketball and in the NFL. But I really don't get excited at all about those all-star events. I mean, the Pro Bowl is so difficult too, because it's in between that, you know, that semifinal week and the Super Bowl. It's like, who cares? And they're doing mini camp drills and whatever else. Like, maybe the Pro Bowl used to be cool, I guess. Back in the day when they had it in Hawaii, and there was maybe something to look forward to there. But you're right, the NBA All-Star Game has just kind of become a bit of a farce, and even the dunk contest isn't what it used to be. The three-point contest and the skills drills are probably the best 2 parts of that. But you know, are you gonna stop to watch that? Probably not. Whereas the Home Run Derby gives you genuinely the thing that you love most about the sport. Even though we're going to talk about the field here in just a second. We don't necessarily get the best guys this year, but you still get to see dudes hit the ball 480 feet, which is one of the most exciting things in all of sport, right? So I do think the Home Run Derby still holds up. And the MLB All-Star Game is great because, especially the way that Fox has covered it the last few years. I mean, the Clayton Kershaw thing, as much as you may not want to admit it a couple years ago, maybe it was last year, while he was talking to John Smoltz while he was pitching on the mound and Smoltz, was picking his pitches, like that kind of stuff you don't get anywhere else in baseball. So I think that
I don't know if I agree. I think every October for Clayton Kershaw was a home run derby for about 11 years there.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, actually. Just ask Matt Carpenter, who for whatever reason turned into a Kershaw killer whenever he faced him in the playoffs. But I think that Major League Baseball has found its niche, and you're right. I mean, you mentioned it there. They tried the "this time it matters" thing, where the winner got home field advantage in the World Series, which was absurd. And the only reason why they did that is because a year earlier, the All-Star Game ended in a tie because neither team had any pitching left. And it used to be that back in the day, if it was played in the National League ballpark, that the pitcher spot would hit as well. That was still a thing that happened as recently as like 10 or 15 years ago. So I think Major League Baseball has done a good job of experimenting with the rules, not only in the Home Run Derby, but also in the All-Star Game, to continue to make it relevant, because it is something that I look forward to each and every year. But I mean, it's in the middle of the week. It kind of tells you where Major League Baseball is at with it, because the NBA is All-Star Weekend. But in Major League Baseball, they're like, we can't afford to give up a weekend's worth of games, so we're going to have this in the middle of the week so that we can still sell tickets on the ensuing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it also probably speaks to the popularity of the game, the fact that the ratings are always great, the attendance is always great, and people love it, even though that it's, the Home Run Derby's on a Monday, the game's played on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and then you're back in time to watch your team in a homestand that weekend, And to your point about the Pro Bowl, one of the problems the Pro Bowl has is they have it the week before the Super Bowl, so any decent player on the best team is just not even going to accept, even if the format was right. Like, imagine having the All-Star Game in baseball a week before the World Series, and it's like, hey, we'd love to have Yamamoto there, but unfortunately he's getting ready to win the Dodgers their third World Series in a row. Like, the timing of it is beautiful. It's an exciting time to stop and take a break, but not completely switch out. Whereas in other sports, that week or two off, the AFL's experimented in Australia with having a week off before the finals start. And by the time finals roll around, you're kind of already in, a different mode. So I'm very happy with the way it's set up.
Well, look, let's have a look at this year's field, and I mean, look, let's not necessarily make any bones about it. It's probably not the strongest field that we have seen. So you've got Kyle Schwarber, Junior Caminero, Munetaka Murakami, Jordan Walker, Jack Caglione, Bryce Harper, Ben Rice, and William Contreras. Do we think that the reason why this event has sort of, I don't want to call these guys B-listers because Kyle Schwarber is certainly not a B-lister as far as hitting home runs. Bryce Harper is a genuine future Hall of Famer. They're not B-listers in the sense of that, but we're not getting the McGuires and the Bonds and the Jordans of today in this event. Do we think that has something to do with the fact that it's almost a 50-50 chance when you look back historically that guys that have been on a tear and have been the best home run hitters in baseball, when they participate in this event, I mean, historically, nearly half of them have a dramatically sharp decline in their home runs in the second half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just hearing you rattle those names off there, maybe I was a little harsh. I think the only name that really sticks out is my Destiny Draft superstar, round 4, Jack Caglione. That's a name that really has no right to be there. Be it, for name recognition or for just hitting bombs. He's hit 14 on the season. He plays for one of the smallest market teams in the sport. I think that's clearly a case of we needed an 8th guy. The balance of the others is pretty fair. I think you mentioned off air, having 2 Phillies doesn't really do anything for me. I think Schwarber has to be there, and the fact he wants to be there is great. Bryce Harper kind of doesn't really do it for me just purely because of that factor. I think if they want to, I'm kind of torn. Selfishly, there's a few things I like about this. To your point about some guys have had some notable drop-offs after doing this and effectively breaking their swing. I'm very happy to see none of James Wood, who could easily be there, Yordan Alvarez, who could easily be there, and Pete Crow Armstrong, who could easily be there. All of those guys not being there is great for me. And also, look, I've got a Yordan Alvarez MVP bet on the line. So to see both Ben Rice and Junior Caminero going here could be doing, potentially a little bit of damage to their campaign. And the same, Kevin McGonigal, I got on him the moment Murakami went down. Murakami stayed at $6 second favorite for the AL Rookie of the Year throughout this whole absence. And we kind of talked about what he'd have to do to get there, and he'd have to hit X amount of home runs. I don't think the home run derby is definitely helping his case in any way, and it could potentially be hindering it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are some, other notable guys historically that have, been on a tear in the first half. I mean, Chris Davis in 2013, he had 37 home runs in the first half, which I think was the most ever prior to the All-Star break. And he hit only 16 after participating in the home run derby. I mean, probably the most famous one was Bobby Abreu. I think he was probably the first back in 2025. I mean, he had an OPS that was above 1,000 in the first half of the season. He participated in that home run derby, and I think his second half OPS was less than 700. So there are guys that it seems to affect. There are guys that it doesn't seem to affect. But yeah, I mean, you're right. When you rattle off this name of guys, it's still a group of dudes that I'm excited to see hit tanks. And I mean, look, half the field have still got a slugging percentage north of 550. So it's not like we're watching jabronis go out and try and hit homers.
Yeah. We didn't get a chance for me to prepare that I want to do this, but I just thought about it as we read the field off. Let's just go back and forth, 4 names each, draft our dream field right now in 2026. The guys have to be healthy, so no Aaron Judge, but they can be forced at gunpoint to do it. So Yordan Alvarez has to go because I'm going to pick him. Let's see how many of these 8 names overlap with ours, because I don't think there'll be many. And I think it'd be pretty easy to build a more exciting list of 8, but I'm curious what we come up with.
Well, you would take Yordan.
Yep.
I would take Shohei.
Yep. I'd take James Wood.
I think PCA would be awesome.
Yeah. These are not just home run hitters, but they're excitement guys too, right? I think they're electric. I think Cody Bellinger would be good for some level of Yankees representation. I'd probably actually have him there over Ben Rice.
I mean, I love that Kyle Schwarber is in this simply because he's a Philly guy. So I think you have to have a hometown guy. I think it makes the event. So, I mean, Schwarber, without a doubt, for me, I think is the headline guy. So I would definitely have Kyle Schwarber there. I'm glad that he's in the field.
I would honestly keep Murakami with my last slot. I think having a rookie there is fun. And I think what he was doing before he went down, I mean, he's hit 20 home runs. He hasn't played for 6 weeks. Like he could be on 30 something right now, right? So the fact that he's healthy means he's eligible under our arbitrary rules of this made up conversation. I'll keep him in there because I think there's a bit of fun. You know, the last rookie to win it was Pete Alonso, 2019, coming up on nearly 10 years since that happened. Let's see if a rookie can do it again.
You know what? And I'm going to break the rules a little bit here and pretend that we live in Bizarro world, but like, how good would it have been if Cal Raleigh hadn't like broken in the first half of the season? The home run derby may be able to fix Cal Raleigh if he was healthy and he was just still not playing.
Could fix Vladdy too, man.
It might be, yeah. Could fix. I mean, you understand why Vladdy's not there. Vladdy
could fix Fernando.
Yeah, it's there's so many of those guys where it's like, can there be some sort of reverse home run derby curse, so we can get them in, they can hit a bunch of tanks, and then have a good second half of the season. Like Cal Raleigh, when he's on and killing it, would be incredible to watch in this event.
Yeah, I mean, J-Ram's another one. I think he's hurt at the moment. He's done a couple. I remember, though, like I've been burnt a few times. I can't remember if it was J-Ram. It must have been J-Ram. I definitely got on a couple of switch hitters in the past because I thought it was going to be like the key to victory, but it turned out they just got gassed on both sides instead of getting gassed on one side, and it ended up being a much worse watch.
Yeah. Look, let's have a look at what's changed for this year, because I mean the format is fundamentally different. So we mentioned the 8 guys, and look, Major League Baseball's tried all sorts of stuff. They've created a bracket that begins in the round of 8, so essentially a quarterfinal. They've tried time rounds and golden balls and targets and all sorts of stuff. In a lot of ways, they've stripped that back this year, and I like it. So the new format, if you haven't looked at it, all 8 guys in round 1 will get 20 swings. And the cool thing about that is they're not rushing. They don't have to swing at every pitch. You've seen so many times where a team's BP guy just doesn't have it that night, and in the 2.5 minute time frame, he just couldn't find the zone, and it happens sometimes, right? So I think it may take longer for these guys to get through it because they do get 20 swings in round 1, but I think it's a more fair format. So the top 4 will go through from those 20 swings. If there is a tie, there will be a 3-swing tiebreaker. The top 4 will go through, and the semifinals and the finals will be bracketed. So based on how many guys or how many home runs each of those guys hit, whoever hits the most home runs will face off against the guy who hits the least that goes through, etc. So it'll be the 4v1, the 2v3 from round 1 in the semifinals, and the 2 winners of those semifinals will go through to the final. And again, that's 15 swings total in those final 2 rounds. And the cool thing is you can't end on a homer. So if you hit a home run on your 15th swing, you get to swing until you don't homer, which I like, because a guy could absolutely get on fire and maybe hit 4 or 5 home runs after his allotted swing amount was finished, and can put up a pretty big total, which I think is pretty cool. And look, just when we talk about some historical relevance for this, of the 10 Derby winners from 2015 to 2025, 6 of them have competed previously. So we've seen that prior home run derby experience historically has mattered. So Todd Frazier, Giancarlo Stanton, Bryce Harper, Pete Alonso in 2021, Soto and Vladdy, when they have won it, had all competed previously. Of the other 10, the 4 first-timers that won it were Aaron Judge, Alonso in 2019, Teoscar Hernandez, which was the most random winner, and Cal Raleigh, obviously. So experience, it's not necessarily mandatory, but it says that 6 out of 10 have done so. So you've got 3 guys in this field who we mentioned previously that do have that do have home run derby experience: Harper, Schwarber, and Caminero. Caminero was the runner-up last year. Harper's reached the finals both times he's appeared, and Schwarber was runner-up in 2018, but exited early in the first round in 2022. Also, just talking about home field advantage, because, look, we've got 2 guys, obviously, that will have that home field advantage. And I think probably typically Citizens Bank will favor left-handed hitters just because of that weird angle in left center. It's probably better for left-handers. If your name's Kyle Schwarber, it doesn't matter because you hit the ball 500 feet. But home field advantage historically is pretty rare. So only 3 players have ever won in their home ballpark. You got to go back to 1990 the first time it happened. The late, great Ryne Sandberg. Todd Frazier did it in 2015, and Bryce Harper did it as a national in 2018. So, look, just a few things that I think we can have a look at. And also, I guess, thinking about the regular season home run leader. There've only been 6 players that have won the Derby while also leading the big leagues in home runs. So there's a lot of cool little different things weaving through in and out of this, and a lot of different ways you can play it. So when we look at the market, and look, a lot of these markets are all over the place. We'll just talk about sort of the winter market. And Spoon, maybe there's a few other things that you've seen that you've liked. I'm showing Schwarber around $4.40. Caminero, the second favorite, just north of $5. Murakami, shockingly enough, I'm seeing on the third line of betting. And then you get out to sort of Jordan Walker, Jack Caglione around $7.50. Oddly enough, Bryce Harper is a lot longer on some of the bookies that I'm seeing. Maybe you're seeing something slightly different than Ben Rice and Wilson Contreras sort of bringing up the back end of the field. So with all of that, again, a lot of information in your head, both historical nonsense and maybe some of it relevant. What are some of the main things you're looking at and maybe some of the directions that you're sort of leaning in for the home run derby this year, Spoon?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see Murakami third favorite, to be honest. I mean, what did it take him, like 6 weeks to hit his first extra base hit that wasn't a home run, right? Like, this is not a guy that has shown elite athleticism, to kind of hustle out a double or God forbid, a triple at any point. And I think what you've noticed a lot in home run derbies recently is it's the fitness, it's the back end, like how much conditioning is there for Murakami? He spent 2 months on the IL, and I haven't seen, no disrespect at all, but he's not a physical specimen in the traditional sense. I can't have him at $6. I think that's gross unders. I was with you. I thought Harper at $8 was a surprise. I thought Ben Rice at $10 was even a bigger surprise, because I think what's interesting about this year's format, it's going to favor guys that do strike out a lot more, I think, because if they're selective about which pitches they take, they shouldn't be striking out on the BPs that are getting thrown at them. You want guys that are going to be kind of selectively swinging, and I think a guy like a Ben Rice at $10 is good value. I think Wilson Contreras at 13 is good value too. I don't think there's a world where you should have 3 times the price for Wilson Contreras as you do for Kyle Schwarber. I think if we're going to come in and say it's not the strongest field, that means that there's no world in which, it's $4.40 the field. For me, it should be much north of that.
So if you had to take one bet, I mean, it's such it feels like a novelty wager, right? Because it is, and there's so many different factors, and it's impossible to put your finger on it and have a real true lean. But I would think in an event like this, you would want to chase value, because you could give yourself maybe an opportunity to back it a few different ways. I mean, when you're looking at Harper outright at around $9 or something, if you could find a market for Harper to make the semifinals, I don't know if that's a market that you can find anywhere, but if you could get better than even money about Harper to get out of the first round, that seems like a way that you could maybe ladder that again as a guy who's at home, and Harper won it at home back in 2018. Granted, he was wearing different colors. Well, he was wearing the same colors, just with a different team, because they do wear the same colors, the Nationals and the Phillies. So he's proved that he can do it at home. He can handle the pressure. And, if you can get even money about him getting out of the semifinals and then have him going at $9 to win the thing, that seems like a pretty fun way to ladder.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. They do have it to reach the semifinal market. I think it's great value for a couple of those guys. So for Bryce Harper, it's $1.90, so pretty close to where you were looking to play. Ben Rice is $2.20. I think Wilson Contreras at $2.60 is crazy. He's just got to be in the better half of that field. He's got to be the best 4 of 8. I don't really feel like anyone should be above $2.20 or so in a market like that, because, he's probably not going to be the best 3 times, and that's why he's priced at $13 or $14. But $2.60, I mean, it's not only that he needs to just go a bit above average, but there's been plenty of poor, disappointing kind of performances in the home run derby where guys come in with big knocks on them, and sometimes it's not even their fault. I mean, we've seen years where like the guy throwing the pitches just cannot seem to hit the spot where the guy's asking for it, and the competitor is always trying to laugh it off like it's just a bit of fun, but they're getting visibly frustrated when they're not getting their pitch, right? So I think Ben Rice $2.20, Wilson Contreras $2.60 to reach the semifinal is a fair bit of fun. I'm going to ask you a question. They got a market here, total home runs in the tournament. It's an over and an under. Where would you have that line? I'll let you do the quick back of the napkin math to get a ballpark.
Got 8, 4, and 2. So 14 total rounds.
15 swings each.
Well, 20.
So is that 210
then,
swings?
Then 15.
Plus the possibility for continue swinging till you get it.
Why do you make me do quick maths? Look, I will say because it's 20 in the first round and then 15 in the second and third round, which makes the math annoying to do. So, look, it's probably in the first round every guy hits 20, it's 160, so that line's probably at like 130. Is it somewhere around 200?
Total home runs in the first round is 74.5, which looks a bit low, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah, and total home runs in the tournament 119.5, which also looks a bit low.
I feel like I'm taking overs on both of those.
With the ones in the tournament, right? Once you get to the knockout rounds, as soon as you pass their score, you stop. So I think you get capped. You get capped in the semis and the finals because if the lower seed goes first, if he pops up like a 6, it's a shocker. The other guy only needs 7. So I feel like the first round bet at, what did I say, 74.5?
But you only need so that first round is banking on, less than 10 per guy, which makes sense. But you only need like the top half of the field
one
to
guy
pull
to
away and get, and like I said, like 2 dudes get hot on their final ball and
get 3 or 4 off that.
Yeah, you end up with 9 more homers than what you were supposed to have pitches thrown. You know what I mean? So yeah, look, it makes more sense. You're right, because those semifinals, if the first guy that goes hits 4, all the other guys got to do is hit 5, right? He's not gonna take all 20 swings, and that's probably where it kills you. But that number still seems pretty low.
They've actually set a line for each player. This is the most in-depth betting I've ever seen for a home run derby. Like,
that's aggressive.
This is awesome. You were right around the mark. I mean, the lowest lines are 8.5. Bryce Harper and Wilson Contreras are both 8.5. Everyone else is 9.5 with the exception of Kyle Schwarber, who's 10.5. So I guess, it's that. But I mean, you're setting 8 lines at 10 and you're giving me 74 for the field. I kind of feel like the 74's worth a little flutter.
Yeah. Or, take a couple guys that you like, because if you think it's going to take, I don't know, with 20 home runs, maybe say on average it's going to take more than 10 to get to the semifinals, I would have thought. So if you like a guy, and there's a bunch of different ways that you could ladder it, right? You could either have them get into the semifinals, or you could hedge it again by just going the over if you like a guy to come from what's perceived to be the second half of the field, but actually make it into the semifinals. I'll tell you 2 ways that I'm going to play it. And it's going to be, the first one's obviously going to be a little bit hard overhead. And I'd like to see Jordan Walker do well in this event, just because I think he's earned it. I mean, he's earned the all-star spot. I think he's deserved to be on that stage and show, the entire baseball universe the kind of power that he has. I mean, I know that you've seen it because you're a baseball perv like the rest of us are. But this is a guy that 12 months ago we didn't necessarily know was going to actually make it as a big leaguer. And now all of a sudden he looks like,
I famously called him a quadruple A player in the group chat as well.
A quadruple A.
You were quick to not forget.
And so he's the kind of guy that I really feel like could use this stage to propel on to, bigger and better things. I mean, even though, he is the RBI leader in all of baseball right now. So, he's getting it done, but he's a name that, a lot of people, particularly on the East Coast of the United States, because they don't pay attention to anything but the East Coast of the United States. It'd be nice for them to see him. So I'm going to back my guy Jordan Walker in, maybe to get to the semis, maybe to win the whole thing, maybe just a little something small. But the guy that I like to win the thing is a guy that Eric put on our radar maybe a month or so ago to win the American League MVP, and it's Junior Caminero. And I think the historical case for him is pretty straightforward. Where are you seeing him in the betting at the moment? I'm seeing something like 520, 530.
550 second favorite, yeah.
550, yeah. So, I think that's a good number to take because, again, you could probably back him smaller to get to the semifinals, maybe something like $1.75, $1.80.
Yeah, or take his total, right? Like his 9.5 total at $1.90 is probably a first-round play if you like him for the thing. And then, that's your saver. And then at 550, you've got him to go all the way. And I guess at that point, you're probably rooting for a couple of first-round upsets, right? Like I've done it in the past. If you lock in on one guy, you want to see the other favorites go down. The one year where I did that and the other favorites went down was Teoscar Hernandez, who was the roughie of the field, and he took everyone else down, including my guy. So buyer beware a little bit there. But yeah, you're obviously hoping to see Schwarber somehow miss that semi-final if you're back in junior.
Yeah, and again, there's no way to know what the matchups in the semifinal would be because it's the guy who hits the most, followed by the guy that hits the fourth most and second and third, et cetera. But I just think the case for him is pretty straightforward. I mean, we talked about 6 of the last 10 competing previously. He was the runner-up in his first appearance last year. Hit 44 home runs across 3 rounds a year ago. And again, the format was different. I think it's important because there's no longer that endurance component. We know the power that Junior Caminero has. I just talked about how it's probably going to favor left-handers, and now here I am taking a right-handed hitter, 2 right-handed hitters, in fact, if you count Jordan Walker into that. But he led the first round last year, and he hit 21 in that sort of timed format. So I like that he's sort of returning with actual Derby experience, and you got 5 guys in this field that are debuting. I think that matters as much as anything matters when you're trying to handicap a home run Derby. I think that's important. And again, he's not the favorite. I couldn't have Schwarber at that price, I don't think. And I don't think it would be fun to see Schwarber win it. Yeah, it'd be fun to see Schwarber win it. But I don't know that I could back him at that price. And Caminero is just fun to watch hit tank. So I think at that price, a guy that's been there before has clearly shown that he can shine on that stage and loves it, right? Like he's got the flair. He's the kind of guy that you want to see go deep in this thing because he brings that little bit of swagger. So I'm going to be back in Junior Caminero tomorrow, I think.
I've just seen one more piece of the puzzle that they've got most home runs by any player, as in like what the best round 1 score is as a line. It's at 13.5 and it's been smashed into $1.76. That gives me even more confidence in that 74.5 number because if one guy's picking up 14 or 15, you're asking for 60 from the other 7, which is about 8 per guy. It just feels low. I know one guy having a stinker, like a verified stinker, does put you in harm's way, but just as equally, one guy having an absolute blinder puts you in a really good spot. And I feel like a field like this, I'm feeling better about the blinder. One more little fun one. I'm going to ask you to do math one more time, but it's not that deep, so don't worry too much about it. How long do you think the furthest home run will be, or what that line is, the distance?
I had a peek at this earlier. I think it was something like 485 feet or something.
Yeah, I got 483.5. It's been smashed into $1.71. So we could see a ball go a long way tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we've seen historically, I don't know this exactly, but I think maybe 4 of the last 5 since COVID. I think all of the home run derbies since COVID, bar 1, have had at least one 500-foot homer. And I mean, like, there's guys in here that can do it. Caminero can do it. Schwarber can do it. Jordan Walker
can do it.
Murakami can do it. So, I think it makes sense that, look, it makes sense that probably where the line is, but it makes sense that the over is, you're not getting much value on the over, and all the plus money and all the juices is with the under. And I mean, who knows what the weather's supposed to be like? I haven't checked it, but I don't know that would be taken into account. So look, before we wrap up, if I had to hold you feet to the fire, single bet, home run derby tomorrow, what are you taking?
Give me the over 74.5. The more we've talked about it on this, the more I'm convinced it's there. It's money for a confectionery spread.
Well, you don't want to be sit there watching the home run derby with a cup of coffee tomorrow morning and have the under on amount of home runs.
Yeah, please don't hit 70 bombs. Like, how miserable do you have to be to tune in? I'm going to watch the 3-point contest and hope they all hit the backboard and bounce out. Like, come on, man, grow up.
Yeah, let's go to the home run derby and cheer for the defense.
I'm cheering for the BP throw. I hope he gets some strikeouts tonight.
So a fun way to play it, take the over in the first round tomorrow, cheer your guy on, and go Jordan Walker. I think it would be fun if he could win it. He's the first guy that we've had in the home run derby since Albert Pujols did it when the home run derby was in St. Louis back in 2005. So it'll be fun to see a Cardinal in the derby. Hopefully it doesn't break his swing, but I think I'll also be cheering on Junior Caminero. Friend of the show, former Australian Baseball League guy. So it would be fun, I guess, to see Junior maybe win one after going well last year. Well, don't forget, we will have an episode tomorrow. Eric will join us. At least he says he's going to join us. And we'll do something similar. We will recap Destiny Draft. We'll hear from Eric and Ibo and their thoughts. We'll also look ahead to the All-Star game. Spoon probably will be devouring those markets tomorrow while he's in Cal South Australia because there's not a whole lot else to do in that sleepy old remote town except go to the pub or the other pub. So I imagine we'll probably hear from Spoon on some bets for the All-Star game tomorrow and a few interesting tidbits to come out of the All-Star game as well. We'll chat with Eric about that tomorrow. Enjoy the Home Run Derby. We'll chat in 24 hours. Bye, everyone.